Welcome to Between Views. I'm your host, Alec Koski. This podcast aims to cast light on inspirational people, identify them as potential mentors in your journey, and share their wisdom with the world. In this episode, we go live on Zoom to Hawaii with the inspiring entrepreneur, Hawaiian history buff, and well-known face in the female surfing community, Keli Campbell. I hope you enjoy. All right, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, going well. As you can see, I'm sitting on like a nice tropical beach and just relaxing, soaking up the waves. Yeah, I thought it would be kind of fitting to dress this way since it would be kind of what we were talking about today.
I think it looks perfect. It looks dreamy.
Thanks. It took a while to get here, 10-hour flight, like pretty tiring.
Right.
So how's things
gotta
been?
love it. Great. We're in the middle of some sort of tropical storm, so it's like dark and stormy and cold out there.
Wow.
There's waves, but it's very choppy and awful. But yeah, everything's going good.
Yeah, right. Do tropical storms, is that actually a good thing for surf in Hawaii, or you don't really need it?
Not really, only because it kind of makes it not as fun to actually surf. We just like the storms far out there that bring the waves in and keep the conditions nice and glassy. This sort of creates not favorable winds and a little bit of, because there's waves out there, but it looks like not very fun.
Yeah, the one time Hawaiian people are stuck inside.
Right, and we're cold. So let's just be clear about that. Everybody's going to be talking about how cold it is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to do a little intro for you for coming onto the show. So I had written here, she's a Hawaiian local who grew up on the Big Island. Keli's an entrepreneur and owner of businesses, Tomboy Bombshell and Hawaiian Sunday. There might even potentially be another one, right? Is there another thing you're working on? I think you
no,
had one
it's
more
just
thing.
those two, technically. I mean,
Two for now.
we don't need to talk about my appraisal business because that's boring and not really in line with what you're. I mean, it's not boring. It's great. It's a great all the things, but you know what I mean? Yeah. So Tom Bomb and Hawaiian Sunday are my two creative ventures, we'll call them.
Yeah, I'm hoping to dive into those today. I just want to also mention that you're an active member of your community, known by many, and also a very avid surfer. Traveling to any part of the Big Island, you'll find someone who you know. On top of this, you're a journalist, an avid reader, a dog mum, and unofficially the first person ever on Between Views. I'm also lucky enough to be able to call you my friend. So you got a lot going on there.
Thanks, Alec. Top of the list being your friend. That's cool. I'm excited. Thanks for even thinking of me to interview. I feel so honored, like I said, because you meet a lot of interesting people, and I've never considered myself that interesting. I think I'm lucky in a lot of ways, and that might be cool, but
yeah, well, I'm sure that the people listening to this will consider themselves very lucky as well. You've got an awful lot to say, and you've done many things, and I really think that I think it's your turn for your story to be shared. So hopefully this is the scene to do it. What I want to open with, Keli, was I think I was talking to my friend the other day. We were out gardening together, and he was just kept asking me questions about Hawaii. And I thought there's probably a lot of people who wonder what it's like in Hawaii and what it's like growing up there. So I was wondering if you could just tell us what it's like being growing up, having the luxury, I guess, of growing up in a place that people call their paradise.
oh yeah, it is pretty amazing. And it's funny because just to sort of give you a little backstory about me personally, I actually was not born in Hawaii, which is kind of a funny thing, because to be born in Hawaii is this really big point of pride for a lot of people. And I would love to say that I was born in Hawaii, but I actually was not. My dad is from Hawaii. My family are part Hawaiian. My grandfather was born on this island, Big Island, which is where I am now. My grandmother on Oahu as well. So I have very deep roots in Hawaii, but I was actually not born in Hawaii, and I didn't even come to live here until I was almost 10 years old. So interestingly enough, I have the luxury of having a comparison, right? So I had a childhood on the mainland in the desert, a little desert town in California, where my mom was from,
Uh-huh.
and it was amazing. I grew up. I had a dirt bike, and we had lived near a river, so I learned to water ski and all that. Those kinds of fun things that are not Hawaii. You know what I mean? They're nothing like Hawaii. They're completely the opposite. And
Yeah.
then to come here when I was about 10 years old, and honestly, I was a little bit like not excited about it because we had such a fun time. But once I think the thing that really turned everything around for me was experiencing the culture, which is my culture heritage wise, because I am of Hawaiian ancestry, and to get to be in a place where my roots are accessible to me culturally, that's so rare. And I think that a lot of Hawaiians, especially the ones, and so that's why it's a point of pride to be born in Hawaii, right? Because what a story to have had your birth happen in the
Yeah.
place where your ancestors are from. So not, my stories, I love that I get to have seen both and experienced both, because I feel like it broadened my worldview a bit, and also created maybe even a bit more appreciation for the accessibility to my culture and to Hawaiian language and Hawaiian history. Because once I sort of started to dive into that as a young person, I just fell in love with the fact that there's so much wisdom still relevant today.
Yeah. So it was actually the contrast of growing up on the mainland in California that made it seem so much more special to you when you finally got the chance to move over and start living there.
Right. And the good thing, the really neat thing was, I think luckily for me, is my dad, because he's Hawaiian and had grown up in Hawaii as well. He grew up on Oahu, and he
Yeah.
has, and my grandfather has really interesting stories too. So we always had Hawaiian culture in our lives. And so it was never not there, but to go from one extreme to the other, really the vibrancy really stands out, I think. And that
Yeah.
I'm super thankful for.
Yeah, you probably don't really notice until you've come from or gone somewhere else how beautiful Hawaii truly, truly is. Because you see all of the
Well, like you
photos and the pictures
said,
online, but until you get there, it's like you turn up and it's just like high definition, and it's far more than the stereotype that people put on it. It's like a million times more bright and beautiful. And um but there's also some things there which I find intriguing, is like the influence of American culture on Hawaii as well. Like I turned up and there was definitely some things I did not expect to see. Like you never see photos of the lava fields that you're driving through on that highway that basically goes all the way around Big Island. There's this dry kind of like dusty, deserted part of Hawaii that no one gets really shown, right? Like that shocked me straight away when I got off the plane.
I think it's funny that you actually, especially, so mind you, I guess we should put the disclaimer out there first and foremost that all of the islands are different. And when you fly into Hawaii or Maui, you're going to have a different experience. But you fly into the Big Island on the West Coast, you're going to fly directly into a lava field. And that's
Yeah.
what's neat about this island as well, is that I know our climate is so wild and rugged. And I think that back to that question about growing up in Hawaii, I think that it shapes you to be adventurous and open to new experiences, and, comfortable with a little bit of wildness. And as you know, because you've surfed with me and you've been surfing on this island, we don't have any easily accessible spots, and there's nowhere
No.
friendly in the way that there's no, we have no sandy, right, glassy point breaks, which I truly love as well. But I think growing up here within this island, it humbles you and it teaches you respect just in its existence. I mean, there's so much natural power, or mana, right? Mana is the word for power in Hawaiian.
Mm.
And you jump off the plane, and I feel like you can feel that the instant you step off. There's an active volcano, for goodness sake, which historically is linked to Pele, and there's a lot of mana and good stories there. But so this island in particular to me feels very rich and wild and rugged, and it I think it shapes you whether you want it to or not sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you're living in Kona, which is actually kind of, smack bang center of the heart of all those ancient stories, sort of where all the main, well, at least especially in recent history, a lot of the main unfoldings with King Kamehameha and his cousin, a lot of that stuff happened, either side of where you're living right now. And as far as I understand, you live right near the home of surfing. You know, it's debatable as from what I understand, but what's that bay called again, where they sort of believe that surfing started off?
So Honolulu Bay, which is right down the street here, we call the surf spots Lyman's and Banyans.
Hmm.
But originally that was a full complex where they taught surfing and they trained ali'i in ali'i ways, right? So it's fascinating because you can still, they've actually protected that land. It's called Keolanahi is the complex, and
Hmm.
the remnants of that time are still there, which in turn, again, back to that idea of Big Island being having accessibility to that culture, surfing specifically, like even down the road at Kahaluu, where they give surf lessons and it's a snorkeling beach and it's very, touristy technically, there's a heiau there dedicated to surfing, and that's still intact. And that I think that has had a big impact on me as a surfer and as a Hawaiian, just
Hmm.
to really desire to protect that as well, and kind of educate as you can. And I know times change so quickly, and like we do live in a place that's a tourist based industry, but if we can responsibly participate in that, that's our best hope.
Of course. There's a few things I wanted to mention there. So Kelly said the word heiau, which is essentially the Hawaiians version of a temple and sacred place, and also the word ali'i, which is that is essentially the elite. They're the royals of Hawaiian culture prior to American arrival. And is there still ali'i now? Does that still exist, or has that kind of been
No,
swept
I mean
away
the
with the rush of
system,
American
no. and
culture?
and this, man, we could really, that would be a really long
You know, I
meandering if
was
we want
just
to go down
talking,
there.
Kelly, to I was just talking to my sister this morning, and she goes, "I don't know if it's a little bit too political, but would this be a good topic?" And I was like, "I feel like it would be a long topic."
Well, it's an interesting, it's a really interesting one, and I'm going to be totally forthcoming with you. I'm probably not the expert to talk to you about Hawaiian history. I do have a cousin, of course, who is.
Oh yeah, I
But
bet you could recommend loads of good people to go on between you at some
uh,
point.
I have a list for you, actually.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I'll take your
but I will say
recommendations.
that story is pretty readily available to read about. But yeah, the downfall of the Hawaiian system, and then now in today's time, so there's a lot going on politically about that. Specifically, there's a sovereignty movement that's been in Hawaii since, I would say, the 70s. And the really cool thing about that, and again, I'm not the foremost expert, so I'm maybe not the right person to answer these
Sure,
questions
sure.
specifically, but I do think that things like surfing, canoe sailing, and those are cultural practices, and we just still do them like as a regular everyday part of our lives. And
Yeah.
that in and of itself, as far as a cultural preservation, dancing hula, the kids, there's kids that I've known and women that I know that have danced hula their entire lives, and that's just their norm. And that, so while there's not an elite system still in place in Hawaii, the culture permeates our everyday lives. And I don't know that sovereignty is the answer. I do know, and you can look this up. Your viewers can look this up. That the
Hmm.
Hawaiian lands were forcibly taken, and that story can be infuriating to the people of this land. And so it is a sticky place, just because
Yeah.
of how we've evolved as a community to include people from other cultures, obviously, because that happened way back when. Yeah, so
Hmm.
it would be an interesting talk, but I may not be your number one choice for that one. I can talk
No.
lots about surfing and Hawaiian history specifically about
Yeah.
it.
What I said to my sister was, I think we'll start off with the original topics we planned for today. But if we get onto that topic in, potentially in the future when I come and visit you in Hawaii, then maybe we can go again. Who knows? So we'll
Yeah,
see
who
from there.
knows? Or, and like I said, I
Um,
could rope in. I've got two cousins. I actually have three cousins that would be really good to talk to about.
oh yeah. Okay. Well,
Oh,
perhaps
you
we,
actually met one of them when we were harvesting taro.
yeah,
Naui is really knowledgeable about that, and one of our other cousins that lives up in Waimea. And tell your
yeah.
sister hi, by the way.
Oh, I will. I will. Um, so yeah, so Kelly just mentioned that we went taro farming one time. So like I said, wherever you go on the Big Island, you're going to find someone who Kelly's connected to. And we went taro farming. Why is taro farming so important to Hawaiian people?
That, well, because so we call it Kalo. That's the Hawaiian word for taro, and it was the main staple food in ancient Hawaiian culture. And
Mhm.
Hawaiians have always been connected to the land and malama, right? That's the word for care, malama.
Malama Da'aina. I
And
remember that one. Care for the
essentially,
land.
yeah, there you go. Yes, exactly. Um, but truly, because sustenance and feeding your people, ensures their safety, prosperity. Kalo is the source of all of that, and that's why it's so important. And then in on this island and in Waipio specifically, that those are generational family lands, and they've been well taken care of. And it's, I think, a real responsibility to perpetuate that practice. And my cousin, they've done that for many generations, and on my auntie side.
Yeah. So basically, how the day went when we went down into the farm was we pulled into Pololu Valley. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And
No,
not quite.
Waipio. We were
Oh,
no,
that's
no, we were in
true. We were in
Waipio.
Waipio
Yeah.
Valley, not Pololu. That's the other one. So we went down into Waipio Valley, which you can only go into if you know someone who's Hawaiian. So firstly, I was just feeling very fortunate that we could go in. We pull into this farm. We weren't even really sure if we're in the right place for a long time. And then we pulled in and we were greeted by some very kind, rosy-cheeked people after, spending a lot of time down in the sun. We took our shoes off. I got a little drink bottle that had a secret beer compartment inside. It was to be disguised as a drink bottle
Don't be
of
giving. Yeah,
Uncle.
wait. Don't give away Uncle Sean's secrets.
Okay, I won't say any
That's
more. It
trademark.
was actually a
That's
real drink
that's
bottle.
trade secrets.
It was a real drink bottle filled with water. There was definitely nothing else inside. So after that, we took
Well,
our
I'm
shoes off.
gonna jump in here, and I'm just gonna interject on you really quickly and just say
Yeah.
that we totally like bombarded those guys, which is great because they go down there and they work. They work on the weekends. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And so it was more than likely that they would be down there. And they were kind of like, yeah, sure, you guys want to come pull some taro, go for it. And so I love
Yeah.
them for that. And I love them, because they're just they are like proper caretakers of the land, and I cannot express my massive respect for how they've done that. And like you said, like they did with you guys, they tried their best to sort of educate you for the moment you were down there, which is so lovely of them.
Yeah. Yeah. We
Yeah.
were basically getting taught how to do it right from the get-go. And it was a hands-on experience. Like they call that kinesthetic learning, where you just get thrown into the experience and you learn from doing. So we all took our shoes off. We took a little floating boat out. We started reaching down around the bases of the taro because you have to clear the mud out from underneath. And then we would pull it out and place it all in the boat. And we'd try and make sure that we got all of each sort of set of roots out before we moved on to the next. We didn't want to miss any. When we finally got out, we learned how to clean them, trim them, and then also how to replant them. And all this is taking set in honestly one of the most beautiful places you'll ever see in your life if you're lucky enough to make it down there. And then yeah, we hung out with them for a good portion of the morning and then went on our way. One thing that I loved about it was meeting Naui and hearing about how she taught Hawaiian language within schools. And this is the one most fascinating thing I think about Hawaii is people don't realize it's this really interesting blend of Hawaiian old culture and American like capitalism. And it's just like met in the middle. And it's like a mixture of slow and fast. It's a mixture of like, it's got like these great elements to it and these really challenging elements to it. People are happy about some
Yeah.
things and sad about others.
Right.
What do you think's the most interesting part, Kelly, about the blend between American and Hawaiian culture?
I think that it's like, as you said, it's a very interesting dichotomy. It can be contentious at times as well. As I have said, I am so thankful that there's so much Hawaiian culture still permeating our everyday, wildly Americanized lives. because it's true. Like it's totally interspersed from the language, and even like it's not even just American culture. I mean, it is that's the overarching system in which we operate, right? But culturally, we have Hawaiian, we have Portuguese, we have Japanese, we have all these other people that came to the islands during different times, you know, from sugarcane days, and it makes this very interesting, rich, and can be kind of contentious, you know, situation. But it's colorful, it's vibrant, it's alive, it's frustrating, it's all these things. But I think the most interesting thing about that is that we're evolving and progressing, but maintaining our roots. Do you know what I mean? And there are hard parts. Obviously, you know, our infrastructure is not great. Our the way that we receive food and gas and our resources. I mean, sustainability. God, you really want to go down the other rabbit hole? That's the big one for if
Yeah, the
these
topics
Hawaiian
keep
Islands.
unfolding.
In you know, like, we'll get onto the fun stuff. We'll get onto the fun, like, other entrepreneurial things here in a second, which actually this will lead into it. Let's go with this.
Yeah.
Because we've built our industry on tourism and depending completely on outside sources for things like food and fuel and energy, we've kind of, you know, boxed ourselves into a corner as a geographical location, not even just a culture, you know, just as a people, a whole people, Hawaiians, anyone that lives in these islands, right? The best thing I think about what's been happening is that, so in Hawaiian culture specifically, that's become its own degree. There's more industries around teaching Hawaiian language, Hawaiian cultural practices. There are many more Native Hawaiians starting their own businesses and working to create sustainable operations, be it agriculturally, through sustainable fashion, you know, eco-friendly, whether it's that way, artwork to encourage, you know, those sort of solutions within our islands, we'll call it our island chain. And I think that I'm not sure. I mean, I personally I don't have a solution necessarily myself for our sustainability, but I do see hopefulness there, and I do see lots of movement towards that sort of self-sustainability, which, oh man, I just think about any minute, you know, if the boats stopped coming and nobody could go to Costco, we would all be learning to farm taro. And there you go. You know?
Yeah. And, you know, fortunately, there are still plenty of pockets of people on Hawaii and all the Hawaiian Islands who would in some way maintain that knowledge. And it's the string of the story with how to be sustainable and live on those islands is being passed on more and more nowadays, isn't it? There's bigger programs pushing towards the maintenance of Hawaiian language and knowledge, and it's kind of cool that it's almost starting to try and like reverse back to how it used to be, because the Hawaiian Islands were completely self-sufficient.
Totally.
You see these amazing
the
pictures at
Hawaiians
all
are
the
so
hands.
smart. Yeah. They were so smart.
Completely
They never got
self-sufficient.
sick. They had all their ways taken care of. They fed everybody. Nobody starved. I mean, if you broke the law, you know, you were killed. But hey,
Yeah,
sometimes things have to
there
be
was some
kind of brutal.
brutality, but you know, it definitely probably kept people following the law.
Yeah. But yes,
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, it's such a great place. But I think, and too, sorry to kind of jump back
No, you're
in,
right.
but I think the other cool thing about that is that mentality of community mindedness is sort of just present. Like you sort of are absorbed into that, whether you like to be or not. And that for me personally has been really cool, because I've always felt totally at ease with trying something new and knowing that I'd be supported in those endeavors, because it can be a small town like any small, you know, or small community, which can be judgmental and a little bit narrow-minded depending, but there's also a lot of really fun big thinkers and a lot of really interesting minds and a lot of positive, you know, a lot of, I don't think there's anyone in my own community that's ever been, you know, actively tried to shut down anything I've done just because you know, out of spite or any of the things. It's always been sort of like, yeah, can I help you? How can I help you? And I think that's a very Hawaiian trait, you know, that's an idea, because that's how they survived for such a long time, by working together and helping each other out.
Right. So it's kind of carried on even today. And we're just going to take a little pause right there. Can't give it all to you at once. Just wanted to say thank you for listening to part 1 of our interview with Keli. If you enjoyed what you heard, please jump over and give Tomboy Bombshell or Hawaiian Sunday a follow. It'll help Keli out a lot. Also remember that the best way you can support this podcast is by liking and following Between Views on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify and Apple. Also, if you know someone inspirational who deserves to be interviewed, please send us an email at betweenviewsbv@gmail.com or give us a message on Instagram. Thanks again and see you soon. Between Views.